Listen to music, meditate, watch.
Well, shall we begin?
Oh, hi,
Welcome,
Jay.
everybody. It's so fun to see everybody's faces. Brian, I've missed being on your calls. It just happens that every week I'm like, oh, what's happening this week? So
You've been away for months and months and months.
months and months. I think two. I missed two.
It's kind of like that. I mean, okay, well, where'd you go? And now you're here. What did you learn? You know,
Well, it seems like everything is happening so fast. In this last full moon, holy mokers. I don't know how anybody else felt about it, but wow, was it just, it kicked
yeah,
my booty. It really kicked my booty. And in a beautiful way. It's like
right.
just all the stuff, everything seems to be happening faster and so much more dramatically that it's, when something comes up to be healed, it's like you're getting slapped going, hey, 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 this needs to be healed. And it's just not like, it's not a tap on the shoulder or a little like thing tap on the forehead anymore. It is a big slap, and you're like laid out on the floor going, Wah! But it's beautiful because it more demonstratively affirms what I already know about what I need to heal. So
Well, you remember last month I called the month of February the hole in one month, because it was so short. It was a par three. They should be able to go right through the month like nothing, get the hole in one. Theoretically, that would be right around the peak of the full moon. So, did you ace the hole or not?
did
No.
I did I ace the hole is the
Yeah,
question?
did you ace the hole?
Well, I aced seeing that the hole is there.
Okay, well,
And I
that's
got the right club in my hand.
good.
And my swing is pretty practiced by now. So
You're in the swing. Okay, well, that's good enough. All right, well,
Pete got a beautiful photo of it on his phone of the moon. Yeah,
yeah,
really bright. Yeah, it was beautiful last night.
okay.
so tell me, what have you got for us here, Brian? What's
Well,
happening this month?
I tell you, it's a good, I don't know if it's the word segue or whatever, but I never did understand that word. But you talking about the full moon is actually a good place to start because I have a little diagram for the month of how the energy will, let's say, undulate through the whole month. And basically starts with the full moon and it goes to the new moon, which will be in the middle of March. And then it'll go to the full moon at the end of March. But somewhere in the middle between the new moon and the full moon, there'll be a halfway point called the equinox. So I've labeled that particular phenomena from the new moon to the full moon the bridge, because it's kind of rare to have a new moon and a full moon on both sides of the equinox. I'm going to try to show a little picture here, um, just the top part right now. Can you see the top part?
Yes, I can see it.
Uh,
Yep.
It's pretty self-explanatory, but you can see the full moon starts, where you just said, and it goes to the new moon. But you notice how it dips down and then it comes back up again. Well, that's kind of what happens with new moons and full moons anyway, because when you get to the new moon before that, there's very little energy, and of course, when you get to the full moon, it's maximum. So that little undulation is what I figure that's the whole month of March, and it's going to be pretty powerful. Also, because you'll notice the line here, that's where the equinox starts. So you got a whole bunch of new moon energy, all in Pisces, basically gets to Aries, and now we shoot out to Aries until the next month already. So it's pretty quick, but it's also going to be very powerful. The other reason is because um, all the planets are going to be direct motion. Do you remember back a couple months ago when all the planets were retrograde? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah.
And everything got put on hold. Well, what I've been making the analogy this time is all the animals in the barn are being let out at once. So when when March first happened, which is today, it's pretty much going to be a free for all right through the whole month. Everybody's going to be running for the finish line. Things are opening up. Things are going crazy. Should be a lot of fun. But it is centered around that point called the equinox. Now that's a turning point every year. The vernal equinox is when the whole planet turns in a new direction. So when you actually hit spring, you start moving towards summer. So it's a big gear shift, if you will. So it's right between two lunations. One is the new moon in Pisces, which is very, very strong, and the full moon, which will be in Aries and Libra at the end of the month. And also in that little diagram I was showing you, the moon will be in Scorpio, like it goes in tonight, tomorrow, and it will be almost like another bridge going across the sky that will line it up with Scorpio at the end of the month. So like kind of like a supporting, not cast, but a supporting philosophy going through the months will have a Scorpio nature to it as well, because it's being flanked by two. Now, another picture I got, is this one here. And you see this one all right. You can see it all right, right? Or not? Yeah, I'm gonna pull it closer. Or you notice the yellow anyway. That's what you're gonna notice. Now, what do you suppose that's the picture of? That's the picture of um, basically when it's the new moon, the new moon in Pisces. Now, what happens in this month is we got a whole lot of Pisces going on. All right, this is a really big difference. That's the sun and moon, and then Venus and Mercury eventually, and Neptune all going to be in Pisces. So, I'll show you that in a little while again. But this is the first departure from what happened back in December and all of last year in 2020. The Pisces is a sign of immunity or the immune system. So I'm all excited because we get a second chance to face the issue of immune problems in the world, because Pisces is that sign. So let's say last year, right about this time when everything was going into Pisces, everyone seems to have dropped the ball. So now we have a second chance to try to understand and apply the archetype of Pisces. So maybe we can kind of cure this whole thing. Okay. Now the sun will be with the moon in the new moon. That's on the 13th of March, and it's called Kazemi. Remember, I used that term again one time before. It's when the moon and the sun are like almost like exactly one, but there's virtually no degrees, just a couple minutes. And they usually say that that's the time of maximum luck. That's your luckiest time in the year, or in the month in this case. So I'm trying to gear up to getting everybody to understand how to embrace the Pisces energy. Okay. Anybody got a clue about what Pisces means? Yeah. You want to do that one?
Pisces, that was the sign of Yeshua.
Oh, there you go.
He brought it in, right?
That's right. Nice. Okay. And now it's a symbol with the two fishes, right? One fish is going one direction, the other fish is going the other. And they say that's the spirit and the world, or the flesh, they call it. So if the fish is going toward the spirit, that's like compassion, sympathy, overcoming the worldly desire. If you live in the flesh of the world, the spirit dies. So there's a whole conflict with the Pisces energy, that because it's also called a mutable sign. Mutable signs are like Sagittarius, Gemini, and Virgo, all mutable because you're very flexible. You can go and do whatever, this way, that way. But in Pisces, it's the last sign. So it really sums up all the other signs. So we're in the period of our life cycle on the earth. This is the last sign of the year, and we're finishing up. And you really want to follow through and not undo, like I always say. It's my little ditty, because you have to kind of overcome the world, and that also means being part of the spirit. So this should be like a symposium month, or at least until the new moon and a little bit beyond. All the spices is available in the energy pattern. So I always like to use the thing somebody told me a long time ago, that Pisces needs a lot of defense. You know, it's a very vulnerable sign, and it has a lot of, it's so open and so compassionate, and so, but at the same time, it can be overtaken by lesser forces. So someone told me that it's a sign of glamour. So that meant using colors, like the fish of the sea, a lot of them have lots of colors to reflect the predator and stuff like that. So we have a very, very different disposition. Now, if you remember, of course, December and January and February all had more Aquarius energy going on. And that was the new age coming in. It's still there. Jupiter, Saturn is still there. Mercury's still in Aquarius. But right now, the moratorium, or the majority, let's say, is like about 5 Pisces things all coming through the first couple of weeks. So I think it's a very interesting thing to try to say overcome the world. Yes, yes, well, Pisces. Also, people like Edgar Casey was a Pisces, and Rudolf Stein had a lot of Pisces, and who else? Einstein was Pisces. So what I've been having fun with ever since it went into Pisces, which is actually about a week ago when the sun went into Pisces. So I'm already having fun by spacing out. You space out and let all the ocean kind of just let you take it wherever your imagination, puts you, and just create and create and create, and don't try to even control anything. Just let it all flow through you. So I say that's kind of what a theme I like to emphasize right now. In the first week of March, second week of March. But even a new moon's going to come up, and it will be like a major concert, or the most incredible people ever assembled, in one big large area. Maybe it's on the Woodstock. I don't know, but that's coming up in this new moon. So
It's really interesting that you say that, because one of the things that that I continue being brought to is this this concept that we are the answer that we've been seeking. So and we are the treasures. Like, what our soul is calling to do is just express that which we already are.
Yeah.
And so there's a beautiful book called A Course of Love, and it's actually the sequel to A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles is a channeling of Jesus. And he talks about the way of Jesus. It's like the age of Pisces, whereas A Course of Love is really based on the age of Aquarius, and going from doing to being. And so in it talks about treasures. It talks about the gifts that we have, and how we all want to serve by using our gifts. But we move from this place of like, we're born with these gifts or these treasures, and we just treasure them because we love being them. I love, like, one of my gifts is singing. One of my gifts is writing and daydreaming and acting, and those things I did as a little child, just all by myself. And I treasured that time because it was who I am. Then you move from that into honing a craft around it, and then it becomes a part of your identity. So now I'm known as this person that sings and acts and dances, and that's what people come to me to, and my ego is wrapped up in it. And so then we come to this place where we want to tear away from that ego and to come back to the state of being, which is, rather than seeing my my skills and my gifts as those, I see them once again through the eyes of the child that I am, which is, I'm a treasure. Those are treasures because I am music, not I'm a musician or I am a singer. I am singing. And so coming back to it from that state of being is what everything seems to be pointing me to. Don't drop the stuff. Don't think about it in terms of how you're going to serve. Think of it in terms of how you enter into the truest state of being. And from that state of being, you automatically serve. So anyway, that's a good
place. Yeah, that's a good place, because you actually you're kind of embracing the infinite that way. Right? You're not isolating yourself from the greater being, the greater reality, which is kind of a Pisces theme. Remember, it's all the signs at once summing up, but it's almost like the only sign that has the greatest humility, because if it recognizes those things within itself, then it's free flowing and can do almost anything, like miraculously. And that's what you're kind of saying. You've experienced that. So how do you apply it this month? I will ask. What are you planning to do this month that will extend that?
For me personally,
Yeah,
are you directly asking me? Well, for me, I've got to put down my patterns of doing. I have
okay.
so many patterns of doing, and So a lot of people, they'll ask me to do things. They'll ask me to do this interview or to speak here or to come online and help here. And all of it is worthy. But right now, it's almost as if Spirit is saying, can you not see that even though the small pieces of doing are positively impacting, that when you return to the truth of love that you are and allow yourself to love and be from that state of being, you are in much greater service. So for me specifically, it means take a sabbatical.
Okay, all right.
Yep. When I ask myself, what do I want to be experiencing right now? I want to be away in nature, quiet, writing, singing, like asking myself how I wish to express. And it's really hard because I've always done. I've always helped. I've always served. I've always, so it's a tough thing to me, for me to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't, speak at your women's group this week.
Right.
Why can't you speak? Plug in and speak. Like, it seems so simple. So,
Well, yeah, but you see, that's just it. I mean, when you could do that any time of the year and have a different outcome, but not during Pisces. The archetype Pisces is like the 12th house in astrology. It's a need for retreat, sanctuary, hiding from the world. It's not exactly participating. That's why they also give more of the U.S. war generals were all Pisces because they would operate behind the scene, but not always out in the front. They had to be in another place where they're solitary. So the Pisces, again, it's summing up as all the other signs, but you're also retreating into the spirit world to get, a great sustenance. It's also said that Pisces is the sign that's closest to heaven. So you don't want to miss that chance. You don't want to necessarily have to go right away, but you're so close to heaven. If the world sucks you down, then you're going to miss that feeling. So it's definitely something that you encourage the people to access. So I
so
think
would
you're
you
going
say that that's kind of the call during this time, is for everybody
yeah,
to really ask themselves what they're, how they're wanting to retreat?
yes, because that little I'm going to show it again, but um, this is the first time that I've seen it for a while. But you have all that yellow stuff there. That's the sun, Neptune. You got Venus coming in. You got Mercury going into Pisces. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Pisces. So they're all like a group trying to get the Pisces energy going. I don't know if that has anything to do with herd community, all that kind of stuff, but the Pisces can solve the world. They can solve it by establishing that greater awareness of frontier. So um, if you see, hold on 1 second. If you see at the top of this here, it's right here, I believe. That's the Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury all in Aquarius. But they're the ones that have been dominating for the last couple of months. But now Pisces says, okay, guys, we got what you're talking about. We got all your ideals with the Aquarius ages coming in, but let's put it forward. Let's put it into action, and with all the planets um, going forward at once this month, it should be a really incredible time of things getting done. I mean, you talked about the last one being fast. This one is a par five, so you can't get the hole in one right away. But you're going to have all this new stuff to include. That's the Pisces. Pisces in astrology also, um, like I said, it rules the lymphatic system, the immune system, endocrine or endocrine, or however you want to say that. It's got the fluids of the body. So it's going to be a very fluid month until at least the equinox. And then it catches fire with Aries and Pisces. I just have to say, how people have been confused about the 13th sign and things like that, and why is it different? Have you remembered when people were talking about scientists saying there's another sign that astrologers are missing up? There should be 13 signs and not 12. Do you remember that
I
argument?
think I heard you mention it, but I don't know much about it.
No, well, I just want to I made a little diagram with this in mind because on the outskirts here, you'll notice there are stars. All right. Well, that's kind of the difference between Western and Eastern astrology anyway. The outside rim is the constellations, the zodiac constellation. The inside realm is the zodiac signs. They're two different things. So when you have, if you're an Aries, you really have a constellation, Pisces. And that's where the confusion comes up. And because you can't really probably see it in the diagram, but the segments aren't equal. So with zodiac, it's 30 degrees every sign, but the constellations can be that much, or in Taurus, it's that much, very smaller. The stars are not exactly lined up according to equal segments. And that's where everybody gets messed up. So I wanted to at least point that out for anybody interested in knowing that. So,
Yeah, in Vedic astrology, my friend told me I'm Gemini. I'm like, what?
wait, well, that'd be a little bit too far. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Does anyone have a question or a comment for Brian?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely retreating. I'm doing that now. I'm stuck in a house, so I'm not going anywhere. So I'm happily retreating away from the world. No, the thing is, I was going to ask about how is this affecting finances? Because at the minute, we got all our money back and we got more than we bargained for. So financially, is this a good month? Because it seems to be for us anyway. It's amazing. It's all coming together now financially for us. So I just wondered how it is in the astrology situation with finance.
I've had a lot of people ask me about that stuff. And the good part is that, well, first of all, Mars is going to be going into Gemini in the first couple of days, like a couple of days from now. It's been in Taurus for a good month and a half. And it was in Aries forever last year. And so that was a very aggressive force for entrepreneurs and all that. But Mars and Taurus is really when it, I don't want to say stung, but it's not really like got kind of almost stuck because Mars is not supposed to be in a good sign in Taurus. And of course, Taurus is a sign of money. So Uranus is the only other one that's in Taurus. And basically, I remember telling someone the other day that when Mars goes into Gemini, it'll be out of Taurus. And so you'll see, it's like going, Mars and Aries is like the ram, right? So Mars and Taurus like the bull. But then Mars goes into the butterfly sign, Gemini. So all the initiative of entrepreneurs is going to go crazy, but in a lighter way. It won't have all that heavy curmudgeon stuff or whatever they call it. So that's promising. But Uranus is going to take off. It's going to keep going right up until I think August or something. And I've been telling people who invest in marketplaces that watch out for the train. The train is coming. There's a supersonic train that's coming in the financial world. You probably want to catch, because that'll just preempt everything else.
Well, that's really good because we're trying to sell our house now, so we've got that to look forward to. So as soon as we can do that, we can go off to our island of dreams. So yeah, we can move then. So it's all coming together. I can feel it, that in that sense of the word, definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
Very optimistic, but I was going to make a little joke though. You said you're in the house, you can't get anywhere. Well, just maybe redesign the house and make it a little aircraft so you could just, fly up and go to an island whenever you want, right?
Oh, I do in my mind. I picture the Isle of Wight in my mind all the time when I'm doing my meditation. I'm there. I do that meditation, Verenia, the one, I've forgotten what it was called now, that you put on last time we were on. I do that every day, and then so I'm picturing where I want to be, where in my mind where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I know that'll eventually manifest, because that's what
you're the Aquarius, right?
I'm Aquarius, yeah.
Yeah. Are you the early or later?
I'm 23rd to later, yeah.
Oh,
earlier. No, earlier. No, I'm 23rd of January. Aquarius, so.
Okay.
Brian. Go ahead.
Because all of the parade that's been going on to Aquarius, now Saturn has moved on, Jupiter's moved on a little bit past your sun time. So you've already kind of put in a few vouchers for your dream world. But what I would kind of advise or be aware of is that Pluto is going to fall into Aquarius, but not today and not tomorrow. But that's the one that sweeps away the entire nation. It sweeps the universe. It's the one that comes out of nowhere, and it's also been considered to be the planet of wealth. It used to be the symbol of Pluto is a symbol of a corn stalk, which was considered to be wealth. So just be aware that there's one more coming for you. One more.
Well, that'll be when we sell the house then, probably.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you got to move. Do you have any idea where you want to go live?
Yeah, yeah, Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
It's a little island off the British coast, and it's a beautiful little island. It's like the best parts of Britain all stuck on an island, and
That's awesome.
it's beautiful. And for me, disabled as well, it's got a great bus service, and quarter of an hour you're at the sea, quarter of an hour you're inland. So it's
That's amazing.
fantastic. Yeah, and
Brian,
that's what I'm living.
Rachel is
Thank you.
asking about the influence of any of the dwarf planets.
Plants?
Dwarf planets,
Oh, the dwarf. Wow. That's
like
a good
my size planets.
well,
And what are the dwarf planets?
oh, hi there, man. What are you doing? Were you the one that asked the question?
Rachel.
Oh, Rachel. Okay. Rachel, I don't see her. Okay. Anyway, wow, that's a good one. There are a lot of dwarf planets, and now Pluto is considered to be a dwarf planet. And they've actually classified, how does it go? Pluto, Haumea, Maki, Ceres, which is an asteroid, and Eris, the new planet. Those are the 5 principal dwarf planets. But there's also a ton more that goes on out to the Kuiper Belt, the Oort cloud. And I know I've been trying to figure them out for a long time, but I work with the 5 that they give out as being the primary dwarf planets. And you've heard of Eris, that was the goddess of war. She's the sister of Mars. And then, of course, Ceres was an agricultural earth mother kind of person, I guess you call it, and goddess. And she was at one time considered to be a planet, just like Pluto. So in 1801, they called that a planet. And then, of course, Haumea and Maki are interesting because one of those, I think it's Maki, is named after a tribe in Los Angeles. Yeah, did you know that? It's
in East LA, like the Bloods, the Crips, and then the, what'd you call them? The Maki.
Well, no, I mean, when I first read that, it was a couple of years ago. Really, they named a planet or a dwarf planet after, well, they all look for creation myths or goddesses. So that's a creation myth of one of the cultures in the Los Angeles area. So maybe you'll have to
Interesting. What is the
research
name of the
that.
culture?
Well, it's Maki would be the name, or Haumea. And I don't really know exactly which tribe it would be. I haven't
Maybe
really.
Chumash? I don't know.
Could
We
be.
have a lot of Chumash here. Yeah, maybe.
So, but you can plot it in your chart. So next time you do your chart, we'll put Haumea and Maki, and you've got Ixion, Varuna, a whole bunch of others that could kind of blow your mind. And of course, the newest planet is called Far Out, right? Did you see that?
Far out.
It's actually, well, there was a planet a couple of years ago. It was so far out. They actually, somebody at NASA, or wherever they were doing it, probably was Mike Brown, whatever, said, far out, man, and so they named that planet. But now they found another planet that's even further at the edge of the solar system. So they call it far out. So they have to they have to determine, its official
How
statistic.
far out is far out? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll come up with some mythological name. So there's been times when they actually have contests to name a new planet. So, but there are a ton of planets, and there are many asteroids and so on and so forth. But the dwarf planet are very interesting because I guess if you're going to put them in your chart, they're kind of like it's not to diminish, but it's like a subtext because they came from somewhere and they're going somewhere and they have an origin of something. Which underscores maybe the traditional planets. Like Eris, for example, has an incredibly powerful influence on what's happening. She's slightly bigger than Pluto, according to what I know. Of course, she had a big factor last fall when she united with Mars. So brother and sister got together and created a lot of vigorous elements in politics. So anyway, I don't know if that answers the question, but I like dwarf because I'm still studying them myself, and I think they're extremely valuable, especially if you consider Pluto to be a dwarf planet. I don't really care whether it's called that or not. It doesn't really matter. It still has a powerful effect, and you have to kind of watch what happens. If does she have that, a chart where she has her dwarf planets in?
Rachel? No, she says no. Is there anything specific you wanted to ask about the dwarf planets? You got to unmute yourself.
No, I've just been doing some reading about them, and I saw that right now, I think it's Haumea and Maki Maki may be making some transits this month that are going to shed some influences on things, and I was just curious.
Oh well, like when it's here, like from when I started out with astrology, you kind of knew the regular planets, but then since 1992, one thing after the other comes in, and you just have to measure the influence that's on you, because they kind of reflect in the world a conscious new thing that goes on. So you just have to study it. I'm fascinated with it, and I follow. There's like a ton of asteroids, and there's the dwarf planets, and there's all that stuff up in the Oort cloud and Sedna. Are you familiar with Sedna?
Yes.
Yeah, I like Sedna. I call her the eternal feminine, and the reason is because her mythology of the harvest of the seas, our fertility goddess, but she doesn't have any mate. I mean, it's like she just creates out of the sea. Even though she had the husband and the father and all that stuff that went with her, but TDNA is the way I look at it. It's a DNA planet, and so it's like when we have like the moon and the oceans of the Earth. Well, I'm thinking of Sedna as the planet of space water. I call it space water or eternal feminine, which is a higher level of female emotion. So I love Sedna. Besides, Sedna is actually going to be, well, it's in Taurus for a little while longer, and it was just in conjunction with Mars the other day. So um, how do you measure what really happens? So it's eventually going to come up to the Pleiades. It's right in the middle of the Pleiades star field. So I don't know. That's really beautiful stuff to consider. Now, there's also, have you heard of if they don't have a name for it, but we're in the Milky Way, right? And so all this planets called exoplanets. And today there's over 400 exoplanets they've discovered, which are planets that go around their suns. So we have a solar system with planets going around our sun, but there are at least 400 other solar systems with multi-planets, some cases 7 planets going around theirs. But they just discovered within the last couple of months, maybe it was even 2 weeks ago, it was like very recently, um, there's called an intergalactic planet. Very first time that they discovered a planet beyond the Milky Way. And it was in a galaxy called Whirlpool. So I'm saying, wow, where is this all headed? I mean, this is why I focused a little bit on today when I was writing up all the stuff about galaxies, because there was a book written so many years ago called "We're Becoming Galactic Humans," and we really have to understand. If you're going to use astrology as any kind of reference point, galactic reference is something we probably want to know about. But galaxies are so vast; there's so many of them, trillions of galaxies and billions of stars. Where do you go from there? It's a little challenge for astrology these days to include that in your chart. So anyway.
So Brian, you've talked about how this time and with everything in Pisces is impacting us and asking us what to do individually. How is everything impacting what's happening on a global level?
Global, yeah, good question. You could kind of do the world horoscope and all of that, and that will put Pisces in the 12th house. So you could without trying to scare people, it's kind of like an end of the world sort of placement. The world as we know it is coming to an end. Period. I mean, that's yeah, exactly. The more and more I understand that, the more I wait and I say, well, okay, I'm good. I'm worried about my future, but not anymore. I mean, it's way out there. So, but that's kind of where it is in the archetype. But okay, and if we look at the Aquarius age having now commenced, that means the Pisces age is no longer. So you would expect, Jesus started the whole thing, but a lot of the parts of Pisces is the martyr, the sacrifices of 2,000 years and all the wars and everything, that who would ever want to be on this planet during this time? It doesn't make sense. That's supposed to be ending. So with this here, it might be like a heralding of a new, like a new crown, like a new crown of victory, overcoming the lesser elements that took us all down. So, I mean, I'm really trying. I mean, if I was actually going to go out and get political, I'd go up and down the street yelling out, this kind of stuff to get people to be more aware of their spiritual life and the potential and the creative. And I don't think that's too far off. I think people are doing it the best way they can. But remember that the old days places where it was like prisons and asylums and hospitals, and you had hidden enemies and ambush. It was kind of a tough one. So I like this plan. I like this chart because, again, I'll show it again, but that's the one with the Pisces part. Um, that it's like all kinds of supernatural beings are going to congregate in 2 weeks, and all coming through Pisces as though they've been hiding for years or centuries. And we're going to say we've had enough of the world the way it's been. We're going to start a new one. So that's why this new moon is so powerful. And being a Kazemi moon, which means you can see, if you see it closely right there, that the moon is right with the sun, and that's, it can't get any tighter. So, but what's joining them is the Venus, Neptune, and Mercury are all coming into Pisces. Venus is already in Pisces, so it sounds like I'm a fan of Pisces right now, because like, oh, I want you to be my leader, and yet Pisces tend to want to retreat. They don't want to be out there either. So, I would totally emphasize maximizing your creativity. That's you got to just come on, guys. I had a little before we got ready to do this. I was kind of doing a little monologue, but I had all the kids out there. Oh, I know out there, kids. You are back to school now. We're going to learn more about something or other, and that's I still feel that way, because Pisces has a lot of humor involved in it. It's kind of making always looking at the bright side of life, kind of thing, and all of that. So, when you have in theater the two pictures of the clowns or whatever, the face, that's a very,
They're not called clowns. You're talking about like the dark side of the mask and the white side of the mask.
Yeah, they look. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't want to offend anybody. But actually, clowns would be a Pisces thing, because they look at the other side of life, or the inside of things, and make fun of something which could be pretty serious in the long run. So, yeah, I think this is going to be really amazing. I don't even know what's going to happen. Well, how do I know? I don't know, but I have this pulse that's going on through March, and like if everybody was like, it's like saying we're all on a trail, and there's a ton of trails up to the mountain, and we separate into different groups. We'll see you at the ends of the trail somewhere, as everybody goes in their own direction. And so the more people are covering more of the environment, the broader you're going to get as an awareness. So if we could do that in the world, have everybody out there in their hiking trails and all coming together at the end, we'll have a super new collectivity of consciousness. That'll be a spiritual awakening. So Aquarius is ongoing for the next 2,000 years, but this is like a not a battery recharge, but it's more than that. It's charging up our creative imagination to challenge us. I think of Einstein. Who was Einstein, right? How did he think the way he did? But we all do that. We all have Einstein in us. So it's usually dormant. So I try to encourage all the kids out there, Mary Lou, this, I want to do sewing. Well, that's good. You can do sewing. And Bobby there wants to have a sailboat, that's good. Everybody focus on their love, their love, and with compassion, So it's sort of answered that way. But remember, when it does come to the equinox, that's my thesis for this month too. If you remember in the writing, I called it Welcome to Andromeda. Remember that phrase that I used? And why do I say that, right? Well, it goes back to our galactic thinking again. Well, I wouldn't have been aware of it last year, but since I'm studying galaxies more, I decided that when, like for example, when the sun goes into Aries on March 20th, it enters Aries, the zone. Then it goes for about a week, and it gets into April and in May, And for all the time that it goes from April, from the end of March to April to May, it's actually going across the sky of the Andromeda galaxy. Okay. Now, why is that important? Well, I have another little picture. This is the bottom half. Can you see that okay? So
Yes.
basically, the big red is the Andromeda galaxy. This is the Milky Way, and then the small one's called Triangulum. And they're in a large Virgo supercluster thing that has to do with what's called the local neighborhood. There's about 30 galaxies or more that are all within the Milky Way range, the Andromeda range, Triangulum, all these cool galaxies, and they all have light years and millions and billions of kind of thing, astronomical figures associated with them. But why I want people to be aware of Andromeda is, I know I said this somewhere along the line, but Andromeda, it's bigger, twice the size of our Milky Way. And there's a little dot that says our solar system. Are you there? Yep. Okay. It's actually merging with the Milky Way in astronomical terms.
Wow.
So, like, okay, in some foreseeable future, we're going to become one. All right. So, yeah, it depends on what you want to look at that. Some say it's collision. Others say merger. I'd rather think it's a merger. But what does that mean? You know, and we have all kinds of mythological names for everything. The Milky Way, the Andromeda, I don't know, Pegasus. The sky is filled with that. But I just wanted to enter that in because this is the time every year when the sun rolls across the face of Andromeda. So, like when we go into November, December, on Sagittarius, the sun goes through the Milky Way arena. So it's a galactic center. So all the Sagittarians kind of pool their resources. And in this case, it'll be the Aries, maybe the Taurus. It'll like activate us to know how to meet this new culture coming in. So I don't know if you were reading that article that I wrote, but I had some fun with it. Because when we got down to the zone toward the end of the month, we were going to go into a Jurassic Park like of, Andromeda zone. This is the Andromeda cave now. Please you get a new wardrobe so that we can travel through this space, kind of thing. That's what it is to me. But that's me, just a little bit spaced out.
I think what's interesting to me is it seems that it isn't just something that we're meeting, it's something that we're co-creating. Like as we choose individually how we approach our own lives and how we live our own lives, we're actually creating this world that we're moving into. So it isn't, I mean, I know there are people that say this is going to happen. It's kind of like when the age of Aquarius, they said this is the beginning of the age of Aquarius. People thought, oh, it's going to happen, boom, and then the curtain's going to raise and everything's going to be different on the other side of the curtain. But it really isn't like that. It's because we are creating it as we choose, as we go, as each of us becomes more whole and more like the love that we are, and we start functioning from that. It's like it's creating the pathway in front of us and creating the world that we're moving into. And so, there are those who are choosing more definitively and more devotionally, others who are holding on to the old world at the same time. They want things to get back to normal. So there's like this merging of worlds as we transition into the other one. And so when people talk to me about this, it's like, what am I supposed to do about all of this massive change that's happening in the world? It really comes right down to, what are you doing in your life, inside you? And so it's, what can I do to the highest good of all is evolve this thing that I know that I am. So I don't know if that made any sense at all to what I'm saying, but we are not separate from what we're creating. We are part of the creation of it, is what I'm trying to say.
That brings up a major question that I always have is, how much power do we have? I mean, nothing, or can we change the whole mountain? I mean, days of the mustard seed, they say can move a mountain, I don't know. Is it all fate? Is it all free will? Or, those questions come up in theology class or whatever you call it. But
You know, for me, people ask me that all the time. Like, so what, you know, what are you going to do about it? What can you do? And it's like, how much power do I really have? Are you going to be the one? Is this book that you're going to write, or is this speech you're going to make, or is this astrological thing you're going to host going to change the world? Is it going to be the thing that puts us on this other utopian plane? And I think, you know, if I look at it like scales, and let's say this scale, you know, is the scale that we've been living in, and we want it to tip the other way. We want it to tip into compassion. We want it to tip into co-creation and collaboration and away from separation. I don't need to be the person that gets on it, that tips it, but somebody needs to get their ass up on it. And so I'm just getting up on it. That's like, I'm just going to put myself on that side of the scale. And when everybody else decides to join, come on. That's the most power I can have, is in my choice to stand on that scale. I don't need to be the one that tips it. I need to get my ass up on it.
I think it's a matter of quantum physics as well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because we're co-creating a matrix. So with our thoughts, with our impressions, how dare we think largely, you know, the whole scope. But I hope we're also heading to Aquarius, which makes us more unified, more one, and into the fifth dimension. So I like what you're saying, and you know, how much power do we have? And then we look at some of the old ways they're in such conflict. I mean, but we have to hold our own. We're adding to that quantum, and being and doing are so important, you know.
Courtney,
I love that.
yeah, she should be the spokesperson for this month. You know why?
She's a Pisces.
That's right.
That's beautiful. No, I love that. And I love that you brought that up, because we are talking about quantum. I mean, what is quantum? You know, what exists? If you think about, like, you're a cell, one single cell in one small part of my finger carries all the information for my entire body. That's kind of quantum. Like, we can't imagine it, because this finger, if I cut it off, it's over there. It's separate from my body, but it isn't, because everything I am exists, you know, in the biology of that finger that's laying over there. And so it's such an amazing thing when we recognize that we are that powerful. When we really recognize who we are, yeah, we're not separate from the whole of what is. And so we're creating not linearly, but quantumly, like you said. And it's kind of, I mean, I don't fully understand it, but I get it. And it's very exciting.
Here's a question, you know, the old adage is you can never be successful at who you're not. So there's a little bit of like, what, you know, a little flavor to that one, right? Because how do I know who I am? You know, you get all these kind of questions, you can spend all day on it, but we kind of know who you're not, you know, like I'm probably not, I don't know, construction worker on a high rise. I'm probably not that. So therefore, I might be a Swami, you know, wherever in some distant village. But I don't know. I'm ready for the new ecosystem too. So remember that that's also kind of a Pisces thing, because you're dealing with how all species interact with one another. You know, it's a fascinating movie or whatever to explore all of this stuff and how it all goes together. Animals, you know, the plants, humans, we're aliens, you know. So
we are everything. We are everything. We're part of every little atom. Yeah, that's the quantum. We are. Yeah, like when Virani was saying, cut your finger off, but we are everything. This whole world is inside us. There is nothing. I mean, there's a theory that they say there's nothing out there. It's all in our head. It's all in our mind. What actually is outside, we have no idea. It comes from within. So we don't actually know what. I mean, it's like the Matrix now. We don't actually know what's out there. You know, we don't. I mean, we're looking, we're seeing, but it's all coming from within. That's what I get. That's what I've always thought, and you don't actually know what's out there. It might be wake or wake up, and we could be in a completely different place.
Well, and what is what we know? I mean, what is that? Like, know with what? Know with your sense of knowing? Know with what you see, taste, smell, feel? Like, know how? You know?
You can know from the way we're built to know. Like, I mean, whatever system you want, like the three cauldrons of the Celtic or the seven chakras, but we're built to know. So you can stand out on the earth and pull in that energy and or gather it through a tree, but that's, you know, we're like an axis. So, and then the top, if you learn, you know, to open your crown, you can access cosmic energy as well. Now, how well do you know it? You know, you have to be precise, maybe ask questions, but we all have intuitive facilities, and we weren't brought up to use them, or if you were probably told, you know, you're nuts. But at this point, we ought to be developing them. I think that's part of the Aquarian age, that we have to be fuller human, because that's pretty special, you know.
As an Aquarian, I would agree with you on that one, Courtney. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Aquarius and Pisces in action right now. Okay. I was going to mention a passage, it's a biblical passage. It says the kingdom of God is within. That's always intrigued me. Because if God is supposed to be in heaven, how can God be within me? You know, a lot of times people say, well, you are God. Okay, that means I have power beyond belief, right? That's the one where I don't particularly understand. We say going within, finding yourself, okay. But is that God? I'm not sure. Anybody got a comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's if you took every single atom and put it all together, that would be God. God is everything. I don't see it as a biblical figure. I'm sorry, that's just my way. But I see it as a energy, and that if you put every element of energy in the world together, that would be what we call God for me. That's how I see it. More scientifically, yeah.
I could answer from a book I read, View from the Center of the Universe. And I'll try to remember as best I can. It was talking about us humans. And so our hydrogen, apparently all of our hydrogen came from the Big Bang, and about a third of our helium, which makes us very light in terms of beingness in the universe. We're very light, which makes us have able to access higher codes of being. And then when you look at the galaxy, the Milky Way, I think it's neutron stars. Those are the kind of stars that our DNA come out of, and that part of us. And usually the neutron stars are a little bit out from the center of each galaxy, and we're on the edge. We're pretty far out for life from the galaxy. I mean, you have to read this book, and I don't. One was a scientist, and the other was a writer. But also that led for the evolution to work through us. And I think as we come into service and realize who we are and what our gift is and how necessary it is at this time, I like what Brian said about, like, we're at the Piscean, the end of the world, and the world doesn't know it. I mean, look at climate change. And the world's not doing enough about it. No, don't get me started. But anyway, there is this strong impulse of evolution in us. And, you know, Barbara Marx Hubbard, a lot of people have done work with this, and it's an impulse, it's a need in us. Will we self-actualize to be able to survive? So it becomes...
Courtney, sorry, you're saying the end of the world, but I always, when they start predicting end of the world, we've had so many end of the worlds that it's not end of the world as an actual fact, it's change.
As we
the
know
end
it.
of the world is change into something else. It's not the end of everything. It's change. It's the end of your particular world there and then, and you're going into a different world.
The Aquarian age. Leave it to the Aquarian. Thank you.
that's just my theory. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think you're right. Yes.
Brian, we have about 5 minutes left. And so is there something you'd like to close with?
I wish I could close out all of the things, including the more and the dwarf planets. But I was going to say, like, I've been studying galaxy for the last 2 months. Every day I get up at 6. For some reason, I just study and study and study. I don't even know what it's all about. But I do. The one thing that came out of that is that galaxies are basically what they call stellar nurseries. They create stars. And then you go like, okay, this is where all the baby stars come from. And so therefore we must come from there. And you know, there was a couple of references to the Milky Way having a baby galaxy in it or something like that. It's getting a little fascinating, if you know what I'm saying. So I would like to just think of the consciousness of that as being very important. Um, I had a lot of different things I was going to mention, but that's okay. You have to have an ephemeris to see where every day is all the planets are culminating and adjusting themselves. Like some days have multiple aspects, other days have no aspects, but we can't go through with that right now. I guess everybody should have their own ephemeris. Do you have one, Nia? You
Everyone
have
should have their own what?
ephemeris.
What's
Like
that?
ephemeral?
Ephemeris. What part of
Oh,
my body is that?
yeah, it's a tattoo in the back. Oh, no, it's where all the planets are for a given day. Okay, so you have a little book and you open up and you can know, like today the moon's in Libra, tomorrow the moon's in Scorpio, and then 2 days after that's in Sagittarius. And the best way to learn astrology, at least I did, is you follow the moon every 2 days and see what happens. And it's kind of funny when the moon goes in Taurus, everybody's like bulls and cows. Oh, they're not moving very quickly. Moon goes into Sagittarius. Hi, how you doing? Yeah, hi. All the arrows flying around. So it's actually a good way to do it. So we're in the Libra. You mentioned already about the balance. You don't want to be the one that tips the scale. That's a perfect thing for the moon today. But I guess it kind of in closing, I'm going to go with that Scorpio theme because we don't have too much water signs going on other than Pisces and Scorpio, a Cancer moon during the month. But the psychic forces are almost hidden behind the caves. You want to do a little bit more exploring this month, whatever that means, no matter where you got to go to do it. Try to get out in nature and all that, but really, really try to explore what we really have around here. So I'll be looking at that one. Um, there's only one little baby trine, grand trine going on, and that's at the end of the month. It's got Mars will be in Gemini, so the whole force field is going to calm down. The moon will be in Libra again, and then of course all the Aquarius planets. But pretty much it's the big Pisces coalition that comes in. Then we have the Aries Libra at the end, where the vernal equinox. The full moon is called the worm moon. Okay, now that sounds a very strange thing, the worm, but that's because when whoever made this stuff up, that's when the worms will start coming out of the ground. So they call this time of the year, this full moon, the worm moon. So that's why I thought you can take that one with you today. I don't know.
So Brian, did you just say that the full moon we just had is in Libra?
Coming up. Oh, no,
It's coming up. That's my moon sign. So thank you. That's interesting. Thank you.
No, the one at the end of the month will be Aries Libra.
Ah, right. That's my moon sign. Thank you.
The one we just had was Virgo Pisces.
Right.
But the one's coming up is called that worm moon. So, and the one we just had was called a snow moon. So, kind of measure things by that. I always like that kind of stuff. So, one more thing. Just so everybody knows, there'll be a nice conjunction of Venus on the 25th of March. That's when Venus and the Sun will be in Aries in tight conjunction. So, if you're doing magic and stuff like that, you want to make sure you kind of get your cycles organized around that particular conjunction. And of course, remembering in the last 2 weeks or months we've been doing the asteroids with Vesta, and she's still retrograde, but she's still hiding in those little caves and cabins in the woods and doing all kinds of magical things. But she's going to be joined by Pallas, which is also going to be in Pisces, and a bunch of other cool things like that. All through the month, there's all kinds of. That's why you need an ephemeris to know when these things are. But I don't know, but it's all Pisces this month so far. And then we have the end of the month, the Aries and Libra, it starts moving towards summer. So can you believe it? We're almost into spring, and then just a hop, skip, and a jump into summer. Kind of like making New Year resolutions, you know?
That's incredible. Listen, before we sign off, I just want to let everybody know that Brian gives natal chart readings, comparison chart readings, all of these amazing things. And I've been working with Brian personally for the last few years. And the more and more I work with him, it's like the deeper he is able to go, because Brian is quite intuitive. And I mean, you're not just someone who does the math on stars. There's a lot going on. So if any of you are interested in something like that, Brian does an amazing job. Brian, where can they reach you for that?
Do we need an email address or something?
Sure.
Like that? Yeah, Brian G. Sandy at yahoo.com. BRIAN.
Brian G. Sandy.
Yeah.
At
Yahoo.com.
yahoo.com. Brian G. Sandy? Are you sure?
Why does somebody asked me that before? It's filling out an
Because I
application.
just wrote you an email. I didn't notice the G. Brian G. Brian G. Sandy
Ranga, yeah.
at yahoo.com.
The G stands for Glenn, right? Glenn. So Brian Glenn Sandy is my full name, but both names, Brian and Glenn, are movie star names. Like, Brian Donlevy, who was a character actor in the 40s and 50s, and then Glenn Ford, you know, very famous actor. So my mother must have liked the movie star people. So, well, there's a question that's up here. It says about the painting in the back.
Yes.
Who was it that asked that? Danielle?
Yeah, Daniela.
Have you seen that painting? I know Ellen made a comment about it the last time, but I don't suppose you can see it as well. But if I brought it up to the screen, it's something I did when I used to work with the horse farm many years ago, about 20 years ago. And they asked me to do a little booth during the festival to do charts for $5 or something like that, just for fun. And so I made up, I'm going to show it to you. Just hang on one second, it's right here. I'll bring it closer.
Maybe just move your big head.
That makes sense.
Oh, that's fun.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see the whole thing?
No, we can't see the very bottom.
It's a very big little piece here. But, everybody likes this.
Solar system destiny. Astro reading. Oh, that's so much fun.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Well, it's got the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy with a solar system. At the bottom, you see horoscopes, like horoscope, or horoscopes on the other end. It's a playful little thing. It's all got a magic marker.
Oh, that's really fun. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Words of wisdom in closing for everybody.
Make believe.
Make believe.
Well, I believe is the theme of Pisces. You know, like how many times, you know, I don't know, your sports team might win the champ, you just got to believe they're going to win. You know, Pisces is the ultimate sign. That's the one, the affirmation is called I believe, or have faith. So,
Yes. I actually, going through, like laying on the floor sobbing the other day, you actually came in my mind, and it was like, I love Brian because he's always, always, always talking about faith and standing in that. And every reading he gives is about that. So thank you for that. All right, everybody. It's so great having you here today, and we will see you next month. And have faith, and add your light to the world, because we need.
good to see you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear. All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Good night.
Yeah. See you again. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.